There's a rhythm to volunteering. When we offer our time, our energy, and our care, something flows quietly back to us. And it turns out that flow, that rhythm, is good for our health.
We experience 1,000 waking minutes on average every day. How are you spending yours? I'm Dr. Wendy Bazilian, and you're listening to 1,000 Waking Minutes. I can't wait to connect with you here with practical ways to eat well, move daily, and be healthy, to optimize every waking minute you live for a happier, healthier life. Thank you for sharing some of your waking minutes with me today. Let's get started.
I'm saying yes to better days, yes. I'm on my way, yes. It's gonna be okay, yeah.
Hello, I'm Dr. Wendy Bazilian, your host of 1,000 Waking Minutes, and thank you for sharing a few of yours with me here today. This episode is all about volunteering, and it's not in a look at me kind of way. I really want to talk about the quieter kind of volunteering. We'll talk about the full range, but I want to talk about the kind that sort of shows up in the small ways in our everyday, and sometimes the big ones too. And this is the kind that actually fills our glass, fills us up while we're actually doing something for others and the connection to health. So I've been thinking about this topic for a few weeks, talking about it today on this episode for a few weeks now. And through a little bit of reflection, I've had some conversations, and suddenly I knew this was something I wanted to talk to you about here today. So I'm no super volunteer. I don't do everything. I'm not constantly active in volunteerism in any kind of formalized way, but I did realize that volunteering or giving in its many subtle and quieter ways is something that really has tremendous effect on my life. And here's what I can tell you. There's something that I crave about helping personally. And for me, if I can reveal this, it's almost like selfish, but maybe in the best possible way, I hope. It's a feeling of being able to be helpful, of being able to show up, to step in and be there for someone else. And it makes me feel reconnected and steadier and strong. When I'm without it or just sort of on, not autopilot, but sort of chugging along with my day, sometimes I feel there's a gap or something missing, it turns out, and then I go find it. And that's what I've been reflecting about. So sometimes when I feel my busiest, like when everything seems a little bit spiraling, or I'm just trying to keep a to-do list moving forward, that's when carving out this kind of time for little things fills me the most. And I had a few experiences over the last spring that maybe I'll tap into, or maybe I'll share it for another day. But it really made me start to realize how important some of that is. And it's much more than checking off boxes. I volunteer, or I do this, or I give back in this way. But maybe it is some of the things like volunteering at school, which is something that I've just enjoyed really so much doing now that I have a school-age child, and having heard over the years all the wonderful experiences that people have had in getting engaged and getting involved, whether it's at my daughter's class, at the science fair this spring. I had the great, wonderful invitation and opportunity to engage in that. And perhaps my favorite, and that is PE, because I am the volunteer in PE. It was an undiscovered, unknown volunteer position, but I swear I had more fun than probably anyone. And volunteerism is not about being competitive, of course, but there's a little competitive spirit there. I had the most fun as a PE volunteer. But really sometimes, and this is what I started to mention, it's the quieter things. It's like the little acts of help or support that maybe no one sees or no one connects you to it. And these are the ones that often feel the deepest to me, perhaps to you as well, because they come completely from a place of love and not seeking recognition. And I feel strongly that there's like an internal light that shines brighter that makes you feel more vital when you can have those kinds of experiences. Of course, there are the more formalized kinds of service that help others in very meaningful ways. And this is what sort of got me to today's episode of all things. Last month, something I thought really special happened. A former mentee, my dear friend now and accomplished colleague, Ariel, reached out to me. She had been one of the recipients of the generous support. She was a Taco Bell Foundation scholar. And the Taco Bell Foundation, that I had not known about prior, gives hundreds of scholarships each year to students from, I think, like 17, 18 to upper 20s, maybe beyond, for pursuing their passions and purpose scholastically, academically, in bachelor's degrees, in grad school, and so forth. Well, she was actually invited as a former scholar back to present and at the symposium. And there's an annual symposium where the Taco Bell Foundation and their hosts fly in and host nearly 300 scholars from around the country. And they were coming to Southern California, I guess, as they've done before. And it's a 2-day symposium, and they immerse them in inspiration and fun and professional development. Well, she connected me to the foundation's leadership, and I was honored to be invited to become part of a career mentor panel one afternoon of the symposium. And I also was able then to attend, which I wouldn't have missed, Ariel's presentation herself. In my panel session, there were 4 mentors in various spaces of health. Ours was sort of a sort of silo that was dedicated toward health and wellness. And there were other kinds of career mentorship sessions going on as well. And I would say there were about 60 to 80 students or scholars in the room, very motivated, bright, engaged. And we had 2 wonderful moderators. So 6 of us were sitting up there, 60, 80 sort of gathered around having a conversation. And as I spent time with these bright and inspirational and passionate students, we were able to mutually, and I guess I was able to share as a mentor that day, being encouraging, being part of their journey, even briefly. I was so honored, and it was deeply moving for me. And it reminded me that offering time and presence, even a short window, that was an afternoon, can really mean something in our lives and as a community and as something bigger. Just to share another example of sort of the more professional side of volunteering, on the other side of the spectrum, perhaps, the more formalized, I've served as a board member, a director at large, I'm called, for the California Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Foundation for the past several years. And there we focus largely on stewardship of the financial donations that have come in to provide scholarship for students and grad students and young professionals in the field of nutrition and dietetics. And this year alone, we just wrapped up and we're awarding several dozen scholarships of varying amounts for varying demographics, regions within California, all over California. And this work as a volunteer, it brings together a number of interesting folks that I get to interact with. And it's really a behind the scenes type of volunteer job. We show up on Zoom or at meetings, or we do our work independently in our own time outside of our places of employment and our usual work. Things like application reviews and strategic conversations and planning, And again, being like stewards, really, of the generous donations of so many into the foundation over the years. But this is something that's been so energizing for me, and it's rooted in that. It's sort of like helping others become who they are meant to be, who they hope to be, sort of supporting passion from that direction. And I think that's part of what makes volunteering so unique. It can look like a once in a lifetime panel moment. It can be a regular board meeting that you show up to on a set day of the week, set time, once a month or quarterly. It can be tiny moments, it can be quiet, it can be grand, but it all matters and it all connects us literally as humans. And that's so important. Anywho, that had me reflecting and how volunteering really can take so many different forms. It can be planned and it can be spontaneous. It can be small or it can be sustained. And we all have seasons in life. Like sometimes when we can give more outwardly, we can be more engaged, and others where we might feel like we're sort of simply surviving with the day. And that's real too. And that allows us to be human. Sometimes we can be the recipients, and I hope that you'll be the recipient of people who are giving into your energy. It really is fulfilling. And I have to just mention one of my many favorite stories about my grandmother, because I'm talking about volunteering. My grandmother, June. So, Grandma June, years ago, after she had lived a big, full life as a mom of five, as a capable wife and partner to my grandfather, by the way, my grandfather, he was a lauded farm veterinarian turned semi-obsessed a genealogist in his later years, writing books and ever active, sort of an family investigator of our family in retirement. Grandma June had also been a career professional, and she was involved in many a thing. She had been a volunteer in many ways over her life and active in her life. Well, at a certain point of their senior years, they decided to sell their home and found a retirement community nearby where they lived, and they decided to move. So during that move-in process, as so many people do these days, and there's such beautiful ones there now that are incredible. So during the move-in process, they gave sort of a stack. She recounted this story many times, and I would have her recount this story, and I loved spending time together. But they would give a stack of the intake, or welcome to the community, loads of paperwork to do. And it was everything, of course, I'm sure, from the financial stuff and the legal stuff and the medical stuff. But there was also sort of the softer side of things, like your hobbies and interests, what kind of lifestyle you wanted to live while you were there. And somewhere in the mix, in this side of things, was a section about volunteering. Would she be interested, in this new community, like actively engaging seniors in the community? What kinds of things might you enjoy getting involved in? And do you know what she wrote to that question? She wrote, "Been there, done that." And that just still, to this day, makes me laugh. She had been there. She had done all this. And while I'm here to encourage us to volunteer and give in and give back, and she certainly did continue to do it, it just makes me chuckle. She had been a den mother for the Boy Scouts. She had done committees and PTAs and family reunions and genealogy and gardening groups, you name it, over her life. She'd given so many parts of her life in service, and she was really answering the question to sort of formalize service, of course. She was still generous in her own ways, but the formal volunteering, the committees, sign-up sheets, that ship had sailed. So today, I want to look at volunteering through the lens, not just of that formal rule, the been there, done that my grandmother got to, or some weekly calendar commitment, but as a way of being in the world and present, something that can flow naturally into our 1,000 waking minutes, and when and how it fits for you. So to give you some ideas there, maybe you're in a phase that you can do a lot, or maybe if you're like me, it ebbs and flows, doing what you can, when you can, in the ways that you can. Either way, we'll explore how small acts of giving, of volunteerism, can ripple out and come full circle back to us and impact our health. So, this is important. I love to talk about the science, and there are real benefits to our mind, our body, our emotional well being that comes from volunteering. So, we'll do that. Then we'll pause for a mindful minute together. And then we'll share some practical ideas about what you can do this week, what you can think about, how to figure out how and where you might engage, or what you're already doing, what matters to you, wherever you are in your life or schedule right now. So, as we explore the idea of volunteering today and the many ways it can show up in our lives, I want to take a moment, as I do in each thematic episode, when I focus sort of on a topic like we're doing today, to reflect on the ROI, the returns on investment, the benefits that come from doing said thing, from volunteerism in this case. And I'm talking, of course, not about the return that we get in dollars or accolades, but really in terms of our health, our vitality, meaning and purpose, our connection, and even long-term well-being. So some people call this service to others. Others call it giving back or lending a hand, being there for someone, or doing something that makes a difference. However you name it, the science is pretty clear that volunteering can pay dividends, so to speak, if we're using that ROI language. And it can give back and pay dividends on our mind, body, and spirit. So you'll hear how it supports our mental health, protects our brain and cognitive function, and even improves our physical well-being and longevity. These aren't just feel-good ideas then, they're backed with real data, which is always cool when science comes along to back up maybe what our mind already knows or what is intuitive. But it's really cool to find out that science exists to show us a little bit more the why or what or how. So if you've ever felt a little lighter, maybe after helping someone, if your heart felt just a little happier, maybe, or fuller after volunteering, it turns out there's a reason for that and science to go behind it. There's something that researchers call the helper's high. I think that's really cool, the helper's high. And it's a real physiological response and not just a cutesy figure of speech. Volunteering has been shown, get this, to release feel-good chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine, the same neurochemicals we experience during joyful moments, meaningful connection, and after a good long run. So helper's high, like a runner's high, or that feel-good chemical bath. That's a real science term. But the helper's high, like that chemistry that sort of bathes our system to make us feel good. And this isn't just a fleeting mood lift, even though that feels really good. I'll take it sometimes. But it's like a two-way current, actually. While you're giving your energy out, you're also receiving something powerful in return, emotionally, physically, even cognitively. So here's what the research suggests and has reported. One large study from Harvard followed nearly 13,000 older adults for over a decade, and they found that those who volunteered about 100 hours per year, or approximately about 2 hours per week, if you do the math, had a 44% lower risk of death. I'll let that sit there for a second. 2 hours a week, a 44% lower risk of death. They also had and showed statistically more physical activity, fewer physical limitations, better self-rated health. These are things that are immediate and that you really feel. And on the emotional side, they felt more optimistic, a sense of more purpose in their lives, and had experienced less loneliness and depression. So just 2 hours a week is what this research showed. It's like one long grocery run or running some errands. It's like a good chat with a student over coffee. Volunteering can happen in small amounts. It can be cumulative. It can be bigger chunks less frequently. This was 100 hours in a year, and I'm just breaking it down so we can get a sense of what that means weekly, but you can do it in a variety of ways. And it's not just good for the heart, it's good for the brain as well. Another national study found that the same amount of hours, roughly about 100 hours a year, was associated with better cognitive function over time. Interested now? And why is that? Well, because volunteering leads to more social interaction, generally more movement, and generally more mental engagement. So it becomes like a workout for your mind, a workout for your memory, and for your outlook. And then I just want to mention one more study here. In a more recent study, just in the last couple of years from Japan, researchers looked at the impact of volunteering weekly. So now this was really, just once a week, and the impact on older adults' well-being. And they found higher social well-being, more frequent pro-social and altruistic, giving, loving behaviors, and fewer depressive symptoms. So if we break this down and boil it all down, to put it simply, volunteering, even in small doses, is good for our hearts, our mind, and our soul. And it really can be as simple or small or seemingly small. It's not small, but small in terms of time. But offering time at a food bank, reading to a child or a senior, depending on where you are in life, mentoring a student or tutoring a student, or helping with something in your own neighborhood. You don't have to start a nonprofit to volunteer. You don't need a ton of time or money. You don't even have to, sign paperwork to get involved. Other people don't even have to know unless you decide to engage directly with others or an organization. So I like to think of it like drinking water, maybe. Small sips regularly are what make the biggest impact over time. You don't gulp gallons and then not drink water the rest of the week. Similarly, to reap the benefit from volunteering, it appears that doing it in small doses and building it into your life the way it fits works the best. Isn't that so cool? So, to briefly recap those three powerful areas, volunteering supports mental and emotional health, helps keep our brains sharper longer, and is linked to better physical functioning and even longer life. So, what's beautiful about volunteering is that it doesn't just help others, as I mentioned before, it connects us to the world and to others and to our community. It reminds us of our place in the world and our power to contribute something meaningful within our waking minutes. So those are pretty powerful returns or benefits, I think, from doing something. And these are personal. These come back at you for giving forward. So now, before we turn our minds to exploring what we can actually do, what it looks like in our daily life, from the structured to the spontaneous, and I have a few ideas for that, planned or impromptu. What I'd like to do is take a brief pause, as we like to do, for a mindful minute. This is our minute to reflect and breathe and connect It's a way that during an episode, I can be confident that if you're listening, that you get 1 minute for yourself to just be and to engage one of your waking minutes in a way that hopefully is peaceful and centered and help you reset. So we'll dive into the many meaningful ways to give back, but this one is giving into yourself. So as we take a pause, I think today's sort of mindful minute should be about giving and flow and connection. So we'll reflect on the idea of giving not as an obligation, but as a quiet kind of light. So I was thinking of a natural gesture that maybe you've experienced before, where you take your candle, literally, if you've ever done this before, and you light someone else's candle with it. When you do that, if you think about it, it doesn't take your light away, but it helps light someone else's. And effectively, it brightens the whole space if you pass it on and warms the whole space and literally connects us through that flickering light. So whether it's your time or your attention, your presence or your care, giving doesn't have to be grand to be powerful. It just needs to be offered to share your light. So wherever you are, let's take a comfortable sort of preparatory breath. We'll take that together. Make sure that your feet are hopefully flat on the ground, that you feel centered, your shoulders relaxed. You can gaze downward or close your eyes if you wish. Let's take a preparatory breath as we start to sort of bring light into our mind and have this mindful minute together. So let's breathe in through our nose, out through our mouth, and let's begin. Just breathe simply. Think about that flickering candlelight and how you focus on the warmth and that you have the light. And picture yourself passing it to a neighbor or a friend or family member. Keep breathing. Gently in through the nose, out through the mouth. Continue to let that candle flicker. Final breath. Out through the mouth. And there we are. Isn't it just amazing how one single minute can bring a little clarity, a little light, maybe even a little bit of calm? Thank you for lighting that candle with me today and sharing a mindful minute together. So when we offer a moment of our time or our care outward, we're not just adding to someone else's life. We're expanding something within our own. Hopefully I established that with a little bit of evidence a few minutes ago. And it might feel like a warm glow or a little lightness in your chest, that helper's high, a little more meaning stitched into your ordinary day. At the end of the day, the days that you give forward, what do you think you remember? What do you give gratitude for? Many things. But, like the full heart feeling, it's very real and it's even measurable. Volunteering doesn't have to be formalized or frequent even to matter. The brief gestures, the check-in texts with others, a shared smile, even a 5-minute favor that you might do, it can shift our own outlook and brighten the minutes we're in. I want to emphasize this isn't about doing it for us, but I want to just make sure that you know how much what you do for others you benefit from as well. Because in the end, these minutes are our life. They become our life. They are our memories. So this week, just a few things to think about. And ideas maybe that you can think about in where you're at already. Maybe you're an active volunteer already, and this is a great reinforcement of saying, well done. Look at the benefit that you are getting. Look at all that you are giving. Let's take a moment and celebrate that quietly and internally. Or maybe you want to look outward and engage in some way or consider doing so. So this week, maybe think about a person that you could reach out to, maybe one person. Sometimes we make the list, we're like, all these people, or these are all the things I can do. But reach out to one person, ask how they're doing, or offer to help in some little way. Someone just popped into my mind after this episode, someone that I haven't been in touch with in a while, and I'm going to reach out to her. You can look up local opportunities if you're interested. You can check your local library or school or a neighborhood site. Sometimes there's even on some of the library sites and different not-for-profits in your local area, there's sometimes even a tab that will say like, get involved. And it makes it easier to scan for ways to get involved as well. You can focus local in your neighborhood. You might do something neighborly, like bring in a trash can for someone or walk someone's dog maybe, or write a quick thank you note that you've been meaning to send either to someone else or someone in the neighborhood. Maybe there's some gesture that you notice and you want to surprise someone with a quick thank you. Of course, you can role model giving in your spirit and attitude. And that takes just being present. If you're a parent or if you have someone younger in your life, you might also invite them in to do a 10-minute active service or to join you if you volunteer. It doesn't have to be a full-blown production, just something shared together. And maybe take a quiet moment for yourself to reflect and ask yourself if there's a cause or community that matters to you, and what could be one small step that you could take in the direction of volunteering or getting involved this month. So as we get toward wrapping up for today, I want you to consider something more specific, and then I'll give you a few examples and ideas to take you through the week, and then we'll be off on our way enjoying the rest of our waking minutes. But if you had just 30 minutes to give this week, how would you spend them in service of someone else or some other entity? So I want you to, challenge yourself if it's a challenge, or just ask yourself more simply, if you had just 30 minutes to give this week, how would you spend those minutes in service of someone else? Sometimes asking this to yourself and reflecting even for a couple minutes reveals more than we expect. So hopefully you have a few ideas that you can take into your week this week, whether it's sort of micro volunteerism or more formalized. All of it matters, all of it counts. And now hopefully you know why. Thank you truly for spending some of your waking minutes with me today. I'm excited to hear what you're involved in, so please reach back to me, reach out to me and share. I love to learn, and we usually gain so much when we share as a community. We're truly better together, and there's so many things that you are doing that inspire each of us, and I want you to know that. And everything matters, and it's not about accolades, but I like to recognize when all of us are participating toward living a healthier, more vital lives for ourselves, for our families, and here for our community as well. So if you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful for you to share it with a friend. If you really enjoyed it, please leave a kind comment or review. It means more than you know. And if you haven't, please subscribe and be part of our growing community. It really helps continue to grow and bring us closer together. And I really appreciate that. You can find more, including the show notes about today, links to the studies we talked about. You can find those in the show notes, and you can find more also at wendybazilian.com. You're always welcome to reach out to 1kwm@wendybazilian.com. That's my email. And on Instagram, please join, please follow along, please engage at 1000 Waking Minutes. I'm Dr. Wendy Bazilian, your host of 1000 Waking Minutes. And until next time, be well.
Thank you for tuning in to 1000 Waking Minutes. A huge thank you to our amazing collaborators, including our production and marketing teams, and Gabriela Escalante in particular. To the ultra-talented Beza for my theme music, my lifelong friend and artist, Pearl Price Photography and Design, to Daniel Ballantyne, Jen Nguyen, Joanna Powell, and of course my family, and everyone working tirelessly behind the scenes. And to you, our valued listeners, I so appreciate your support. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a comment, writing a review, and giving 1000 Waking Minutes, that's us, a 5-star rating. And please hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts. Please follow and stay connected at wendybazilian.com. And don't forget to share with your friends. Your support helps us grow and bring you more great content. Until next time, find some simple opportunities to optimize those 1000 waking minutes each day.
I'm saying yes